insert a nice intro here, unless you want to sing a jingle.
I don't really want to sing a jingle. No. I don't think anybody listening to would want me to sing a jingle either.
That's end at jingle then.
I've got a voice like a cartoon frog.
Right, welcome to Dirty Kinbassa Pilot Podcast. You've heard a low rent podcast. Well, this is no rent.
Yeah.
This is it. It's a mobile phone, a couple of creaky chairs,
and a couple of old fellas.
Yeah. I'm Ben.
And I'm Tony. And we were at school together, weren't we?
We were.
Oh, for our sins.
Many, 30 years ago-ish.
Yeah.
So let's set a level here. First of all, COVID. Fuck COVID, and that's the last we're going to talk of it. Because it's depressing, it's shit, and nobody wants to know about it.
Yeah,
We've all heard enough.
That's fine by me. No lockdown.
Just fuck it. Fuck COVID.
No
Gone.
vaccines.
Forget about it. Nah,
none of it.
Not interested.
Yeah.
Not fun. Don't want to know.
So I suppose I should tell you my little story I was going to tell you earlier. That was one, and this dates back. Now, you'll know yourself. Now that we're older fellas, we can look back on ourselves and see that when we were young, how stupid we were. Borderline special needs stupid in some cases.
We've all done some
We
shit.
have done some stupid stuff. One of the biggest problems I found as I sort of developed into adulthood and things was that, and it kind of changes because now I'm the kind of man where I find that young men want my approval. And as a young man, I found myself in that kind of position. I was in the army and I was posted to my regiment, and we'd been to Ireland and we'd had 8 months out there. And then I was sent to Germany with a company, and we ended up in Germany. And there was a couple of lads who were much older than me, much more experienced soldiers, who I really looked up to. And on reflection, perhaps I shouldn't, because they were fucking idiots. But I desperately wanted to be in with that crack. You know what I mean? You'll have been there. You'll have been in similar situations. And anyway, one day I was really, really, really chuffed because they said, Tony, we're off to Amsterdam for the weekend. Do you want to come with us?
I see where this is going.
And so that's the one. So we went away, and this older fella who was our platoon sergeant, he drove. And of course, the first thing they all did was they went to the bars and they got me quite drunk. And they were all, again, they were older, they were bigger, they could drink more. I was playing catch up all the time.
Yeah, you're definitely playing catch up as a young lad, aren't
then
you?
they wandered me through, I can't remember what this, it's something like Helmutstrasse or something like that. We're going to this place. And we go to this bar, and in the doorway next to the bar, and there's what can only be described as a Valkyrie warrior. And then they were talking to her and having a laugh, and I was sort of a bit shy and sheepish at the back, a little bit sort of thinking, oh dear, what's going on here? And do you remember there used to be a film in the 80s? There were a bit, the old sword and sorcery films. There was Conan the Barbarian, and there was one with Bridget Nielsen in. Called Red Sonja. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
So like this, she didn't wear very many clothes, and she was massive. She was a big girl. She'd beat me in an arm wrestle. And then
you didn't know whether to fight her or fuck her.
Well, that's the one, yeah. And so she says to me in a Dutch accent, and I'll be honest, I've always been fond of the Dutch. It's
nothing sexy than a bit of accent.
They're great. They're great at the Dutch. I like their way of life. And she says, "You're a very handsome young man. You can come in the back with me and you can have sex for free." Can I? Yeah. She said, and they're like, "Go on, Tony." All my mates like, go on, get in there, lads.
Free to a Yorkshireman.
And I'm like, well, I can't say no. I mean, I'll be honest, I was a bit intimidated. But anyway, she soon, let's say, we went in the back and she brought out the best in me.
She broke you.
No, I think I'd like to say I put up an admirable performance, which is probably the right word, because what I didn't realise was what was a big mirror in her room was a big window in the bar next door. My set of bastard mates, yeah. And the thing, do you know what the annoying thing is? That the thing that they all discussed for the rest of, I say the evening, but it went on for weeks. the thing that got bandied around the regiment, around the army, wasn't what an amazing lover I was. No, none of that. It was the fact that I still kept my green army socks on. So I think I don't know. Have we found a level for how this podcast is going?
Yeah, I think that's, we've pitched us level there.
So anyway, like I said, so you live and learn, don't you? And I no longer desire the approval of other men. I'm very much, I do my own thing these days, and strangely, I don't get into situations like that anymore. Or I try not to anyway.
Well, similar to that, thankfully not me involved, was a story that. A guy told me I was a driver's mate at a company for many years, and one of the drivers came with me one day, and he told me a little story about what had unfolded the day before in Liverpool. We'll keep him nameless, but let's call this driver Dave.
Which of course isn't his real name.
Hi Dave. He took this young driver's mate who was 17ish, I guess, at the time, driver's mate, and 6 stone piss wet through. And Dave says to him, "Have you ever been laid, lad?" And young lads, clearly not, and Dave knew areas of Liverpool that you didn't ought to visit on your 45-minute taco break.
No, fair enough.
So they did, and there was a little chat with the young lady on the corner there, and she accommodated him. Dave even paid for it.
Not very good of it.
And what can't have been more than 5 minutes later, they both came back. And Dave's, what the fucking hell's going on here? Is he not up for it? She says, "I barely got Johnny rolled down and he blew his load." She says, "If he'd have been 5 seconds earlier, he'd have blown it out my hand." Poor lad.
Aye. It's awful, really, because it's probably that 5-minute episode has probably done some long-term psychological damage to that poor young fella.
Yeah, I'd never seen him since. So he's probably in hiding.
Yeah. And what became of Dave?
Dave's retired now. He's a good lad.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. And he's plenty of other stories to tell us, Dave. I'm sure we can.
Well, maybe we can get him to email something.
Yeah. Well, I'll give him a nudge. Aye. Speaking of which, if you want to email a story in, it's dirtykinbastard@gmail.com. Stories of debauchery welcome. And,
don't have to be debauchery.
Well, no,
I mean, at the moment we're quite desperate.
If
you've got a story about your grandma falling down steps, we'll take that away.
All right, come on. We've no content, we've no listeners.
Yeah.
This is a pilot, so anything that might get a bit of a laugh, send it in. dirtykinbastard@gmail.com. What you got for us there, Tony?
Not a great deal, but we did find a newspaper cutting, didn't we?
You mentioned it. Go on.
A fella called Steve won a year's membership at a leisure centre in Selby, and what he had to do to win it is he had to come up with a name for the leisure centre, and the name that won, the judges decided, and Steve's name, he must have been up all night thinking about it. Was,
do we need a drum roll?
If we could. That was quite a good drum roll on the opt-in table, wasn't it? He came up with Selby Leisure Centre, and that beat all other names, I mean, I suppose it's better than...
What judges here?
I don't know. Well, I think it was the company that operated the leisure centre, or Selby Council, or somebody like that.
See, I think this fella might be a genius.
He's definitely a clever fella.
Think of it. You walk down a high street these days, everything's bloody named something else.
That's true.
Apple shop, no apples.
Yeah.
No. Bench, you want to buy a bench? Not got a bench?
No. What do benches actually sell?
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
No, don't know.
No.
What else is it? Curries. You out for a curry? Don't go to curries.
No, that's true.
Sell fridges?
They don't sell fridges.
They don't
No.
sell fridges.
That's it.
Yeah. So the man's a genius.
Yeah, well, to be honest, maybe that's what they needed, direct marketing.
Yeah, direct, that's the one, yeah. Tell it as it is. Well, I've got a story here, and this one's a friend of mine who must remain anonymous. So we'll call him Brad.
Okay, Brad.
That's Brad.
You alright, lad?
And he's been good enough to email me this, because it's a little bit of a long story, but it's worth it. 'Cause it's one, again, being a stupid teenager. Let's face it, we did some of the best kinds of stupid when we were teenagers, didn't we?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, modern teenagers could take a leaf out of our book when it comes to the levels of stupidity we sometimes achieve.
They're not even trying these days.
They're soft, aren't they? Soft.
Mollycoddles.
I was talking earlier about the young lads going around Elland with the little mini crime wave at the moment. What a pair of curly-haired little puffs. I'd have been ashamed, If they'd have been mine, I'd have drowned them in canal.
So here we go, Brad's story. Set the scene. It's 1990. My dad bought a nearly new Fiat Uno 45 Fire version.
My mum had one.
His pride and joy. 45 is the horsepower. One at a time, girls. I'm 17. I can't afford a car. I don't have a licence, and he won't put me on insurance to learn. So I've got full-on Kevin and Perry sulk on with him. Dad's going on holiday with my mum for 2 weeks to Santorini. No sooner they were out the door, I was intending making full use of those 45 horses. Cruising.
Picking up chicks.
In me Uno.
Yeah.
Every day went by, the more confident I got. And the more confident I got, the more I drove it. Brazen as fuck. 12 days into his parents' holiday, he realises 500 miles on this car. And I think my dad's going to notice. He's only had it a few weeks and it had hardly anything on it because it was an ex-demo. So in his infinite teenage wisdom, he thought I'd pop speedo out and wind it back.
Not ever goes smoothly.
I've heard about it. How hard can it be? So he scrabbled around for a few tools, managed to get clocks out and started winding. It didn't take him long to realise he needed to hook this up to a drill or similar to get it spinning, or he'd be spending the next 2 days winding it by hand. He managed to get it connected to a drill and started a grill. I'll fuck it.
Yeah.
Get to a drill and started it going. Being an impatient teenager, once he saw it going, he'd go a bit faster and faster and faster. Fast enough that it went bang, and in the time it took him to respond, taking his fingers off drill, it was done, damage were done. So now he's got a car with nearly 500 miles on clock, broken speed on, parents returning from their holiday in 2 days. Brad says here, frantically I searched free ads for a scrapyard with one in stock. There were not many available with the exact same clocks, and certainly not many in scrapyards with low miles like this one. I took a shot at one that sounded the closest match over the phone, because there'd been no internet in 90, so you weren't checking pictures.
We didn't have eBay, did we?
Just taking word of a scrap man over the phone.
Yeah.
Downside, it's 45 miles away, near Manchester, and he's in Leeds. So he picked up 4 of his mates and off he set to the dark side of Manchester.
You don't want to be venturing over those Pennines.
What could possibly go wrong? All was going well till the car behind started flashing his lights and got alongside, waving his hands, pointing at this car. He pulled over, found out he's got a flat tyre, and he says here, I think the combination of 5 people in an Uno and my lack of experience meant they had no idea it was flat. Carried on driving. So 5 teenage experts set about changing a wheel. Amazingly, all went well. Within 30 minutes or so, we were back on the way, feeling like a set of heroes at performing this feat of engineering. Proper men. Found the scrapyard without too many U-turns. The speedo he had nearly perfectly matched the one he'd broken.
Oh, fantastic.
Other than the font wasn't exactly the same, but close enough to me feel like I could cover my dirty deed.
I have a feeling this is going to end badly.
Looking back, I must have appeared desperate, as I'm sure the guy had my pants down on the price. £150 was a lot in 1990. It does sound a lot, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
How much would a Fiat Uno have been in 1990?
Do you know what I dread to think
about?
About
4 or 5 grand.
I was thinking 1990, I was thinking maybe 3.5, 4, yeah.
Well, it's a Fiat, yeah.
Maybe.
So, 2 weeks' wages for me, young and daft. Off we set back to God's own. We're only a couple of minutes into the journey and I hear a siren. I look in my mirrors and see blue lights. My heart sank.
Oh.
I pulled over, praying he would fly past me. He didn't. He pulled right up behind me and my arse fell out.
Oh, God.
I figured it was best I walked to talk to him rather than him come and serve me my rights in front of my 4 mates.
Yeah, well, they don't like that either, do they?
Well, I don't know, I've had it when I've gone to a copper. Man, fucking me, give me a ticket, wanker.
Yeah.
So maybe he didn't like it.
Yeah.
He told me to get in the back of the cop car. As I got in, all sorts of things were running through my head. No licence, no insurance. Effectively a stolen car, as he'd taken it without his dad's permission.
Yeah. Well, that's an offence, isn't it? Taking without consent.
And if he looked in the car, he'd see that it had 2 speedos and both were in the passenger footwell.
Oh.
I sat there and yes sir, no sir, while he explained I was going a little fast in a built-up area, and that was the reason he pulled me over. Then after a couple of minutes, to my astonishment, he told me to go back to my car and exercise more care and attention to my driving.
Ooh.
He let me out the back of the cop car and sent me on my way. I walked back to my car and sat down in shock. All my mates asking me, "What's happening? Are we fucked?" I shushed them to chill out and I drove away like Hulk in my driving Miss Daisy, doing my best to guess what 30 mile an hour was. To this day, my dad doesn't know about this. I managed to wind the odometer back to a believable mileage and refit it, and if he ever noticed a minor font difference, he never mentioned it. Lucky bastard.
Lucky, he did well, but it seems like a lot of effort to go to, because I'll be honest with you, if you got in my car and put 500 miles on,
not a clue.
I'd probably never notice. I couldn't tell you what mileage is on that clock.
You'd notice if fuel gauge were different, you type.
Well, there is that. There is that. But I were always told, and I think it goes back to, again, how we were brought up, you always return a car with more fuel in than when you got it. It's just the right thing to do, innit? Although ex-wife's always borrowing mine. It's like we're still married, to be honest. Sometimes it's like she's her car's having some starting trouble. She texts mine all the time. But the thing is, she's a shit driver. She's not a dangerous driver from a sort of safety of people point of view.
Yeah.
She's a dangerous driver from the structural point of your car. I mean, once she's been in it, something's gonna break. She's just a bloody Philistine. She's savage. I don't know what it's like.
If she won't work brake pedal, might as well be an on-off switch.
Oh yeah, it's so she
could be a taxi driver.
Bang, 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 cornering like, she throws it around, and I must admit, I mean, if my car wasn't only worth a couple of £100, I'd be upset, but it's fun. I mean, it's hard to remember a time when we actually liked each other, really. But I mean, we've been divorced for many years now, but she still seems to pop up when an outside light needs fixing or something like that. And it's funny because the other story I was going to tell you, it goes back to my wedding night, and we had a rape party when we got married. Back when we were young and we still liked each other. A bit.
Enough.
Yeah, so we decided to get married. I'm not sure what I was bloody thinking, to be honest. I think I kind of got bullied into proposing. That's how it feels with hindsight. I certainly don't ever remember it being my conscious decision. But anyway, so whatever, we ended up at Christchurch in Barkisland and we tied the knot and we had our... Because, like nowadays, I mean, this is something that... I'm going to say it fucking pisses me off. My friends, if any of them ever get to hear this, fucking piss me off, right? Because I'm old, I'm divorced, I'm bitter, And I've got like friends, and it's not the friends that are in the 40s and 50s. They're like me, they've had the shit kicked out of them by life. They're alright. It's the ones that are in the 20s and 30s, the ones that, we're getting married. Alright, well, but we're not getting married in church up road and having a do at a working men's club. We're getting married in Crete. Well, I'm not fucking coming then. I'm not being funny.
Do you want to come?
I've been saving up for a new boiler. I've been saving up to take my kids on holiday somewhere where they actually want to go. Not go on holiday with all your elderly relatives. No, it's not happening. Or I'm getting married at Bassenthwaite Hall. There's a hotel down the room. It's £300 a night. You're welcome to bring the kids. But I've got kids. I've got 2 dogs. I don't want to be going to other side of the country for what. Let's face it. What to me is just going to be a posh night out.
It is,
and it's something that bugs me, Ben. Is when other people, because like you mentioned earlier, I do have a tendency to be a little bit tight. I'm not the most generous man with my cash. If you stuck a lump of coal up my arse, you'd soon have a dime.
Yeah. Well, we're Yorkshiremen.
This is it. And I don't like people spending my money for me. That's sort of the point, isn't it? Yeah. But so back when I got married, going back to the tale, what you used to do is you got married in a local church at registry office, and you had to do somewhere local. And we had it. I was in hotel at Ainley Top, Cedar Court Hotel.
Cedar Court, yeah.
And it were nice, and we got the bridal suite. I think they called it the penthouse suite. But it's only got 2 floors as the
call
place.
it what you like. Yeah.
So it were on second floor, or first floor, however you want to dress it.
So you were in loft.
It were posh. Now, we had quite a good party at my wedding, and we both got pretty smashed. And this room, as well as having what must have been a 60-inch plasma screen TV thing, which I was quite impressed with. Although I was too pissed to get it to operate. It's the first time I've seen a telly that big. Back in, going back a fair few years now, people didn't have them in their houses.
What year were this? Do you remember what year?
What year did I get married?
How old were you?
I can't remember. I mean, I've been divorced 8 years. I remember the date of that, but I think we were married for about 9. So we're going back
about
a while.
17
now.
years.
Yeah, something like that.
Right, okay.
People didn't have a 60-inch telly in the 4 metre square room of the front terraced house, did they? It's just one of them things so they could watch Coronation Street.
60 is pretty much a standard these days, isn't it?
Well, it's not for me, to be honest, because I'm just not like that. I'm like
the cheap enough
proper old man, right? Yeah, anyway, so first time I've seen a telly that big, I was quite impressed with it. And this driveway also had a jacuzzi.
Nice.
So Alison decides she's going to have a soaking jacuzzi. And I thought, all right, you're going to have a soaking jacuzzi, I'll have a look at this telly. Anyway, I fell asleep.
So you missed that hint.
Yeah. Oh no, there were no hint there, to be honest. Turns out, Alison, I shouldn't be naming my ex-wife, should I? For argument's sake, we'll call her Wallison. Anyway, so she's fallen asleep in the jacuzzi. She's also put a load of soap and bubble bath in it, which you're not supposed to do because it bubbles itself.
Get a froth on it. Yeah.
But she's never done this before, so she's filled it. She's also locked the door and then fallen asleep with it going. And first I knew about this was screams of help, I can't. I said, all this kind of. And there's foam and soap has come under and around the door to the bathroom, and it's creeping into suite, and it's nearly at telly. And I'm woken up and thinking, what's going on here? There's all this like they used to have in discos, them foam parties that were a bit of a thing for one. Well, it was like a foam party.
I hope you saved telly.
It was bloody heavy. Well, what I did first, quick thinking, because you bear in mind I was smashed.
Yeah.
Right. What I first did were I moved the my wedding suit because it were on hire.
Yeah.
I didn't want that getting ruined. I didn't want any extra fees incurring that way. I didn't think about telly. Anyway, I couldn't get in. But it were like a latch on the door, and eventually I managed to find a 5p piece.
Oh, it fit in the slot.
That did it and screwdriver. Use it like a screwdriver to unlock that. Went there. It were bedlam. The room, floor to ceiling, was just. It's a wonder she didn't drown. To be honest, it were.
She must have been panicking. Properly panicking.
She were proper panicking. She didn't know what were going on. There's these controls, but they're not labelled on jacuzzi.
And they're under 12 foot of bubbles.
I managed to open a window. Bear in mind it's about 4 o'clock in the morning now, something like that. Managed to open a window, waft the bubbles out, and then we're looking at these controls, trying to decide what they do. And it didn't clearly say, so I pressed one. And that just made it worse, because it made it go faster. And eventually we managed to turn this bloody thing off. And so we spent from 4 o'clock in the morning till about 6:30 cleaning room. Trying to get all these bubbles out. I don't know what was the other side of that window that we were throwing them all out of. We tried to get them down the toilet. We tried to get them in bath. It just wasn't working, and that's how I kind of spent my wedding night. And I'm going to be honest, the marriage went downhill from there.
Falling out ever since.
Oh yeah. I'm always in trouble. It's just a question of how much. Yeah.
There you go, Cedar Court. It was Tony.
Oh, don't tell them that. I didn't get a bill. Lovely breakfast.
But they had a lovely clean bathroom as well with all them suds.
Sparkling. Yeah, and a lovely clean living room thing.
Yeah, at least 10 foot of it in.
Yeah, I'm glad they were leather settees and stuff. That probably helped.
The reason for that in bridal suit.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Everything has to be white clean.
Not using flannels in a hotel.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So I could have had a new motorcycle and been happy. We could have a right good moan about. We could witter about it all night. He said, "You ring a place and tell them it's a wedding, and the price of everything just suddenly triples. You know, it's just mental, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. No, I didn't say that at that restaurant.
Well, that's the one. And like say, like if you're going to book a function room, just say, I just want a function. What is it? Oh, a business conference, something like that.
Yeah.
And you guarantee you'll come in at a third of the cost. Tell them it's a wedding, and they see pound signs, don't they?
Do.
You know, I mean, I can't. What were they charging us extra for? Seat bits of cloth to go over backs at seat. I think we had to hire them at something like £200 or something bloody ridiculous. You know, I just.
Yeah, they'll have your pants down.
I'll never get married again.
No, I wouldn't do it a second time. I am happily married, but if, God forbid, anything went wrong, I don't think I'd do it again. That'd lead to dating in your 40s, which would drive me scatty.
I'm gonna say this. I've got myself on a bit of internet dating.
Are you on Grindr?
I'm not. Oh yeah, maybe I'd have more success. I've tried Plenty of Fish. It ought to be called Plenty of Felons.
Right, okay.
And to be honest, I had a few dates of Plenty of Fish over the last sort of period since I tried. I've met some very, very angry, very, very bitter women. And I can't help but think I'm being held accountable for the crimes of others. I don't think internet dating's for me. I'm going to say this. I've made this decision, you know.
I've definitely heard some horror stories in past.
I mean, I know we said we weren't going to mention it, but as soon as lockdown's over, I think I'm going to go back to the old tried and tested, talking to girls in bars, which is what we used to do before the internet, you know, and what people under 25 seemingly can't do.
Google that, kids.
Yeah, Google that. Try it, yeah. A lad we were at school with. He'll remain nameless. Let's just say, we'll call him Ball in Hand.
Hello, Bolin.
Hello, Bolin. I can't remember exactly where we were. We were in Halifax somewhere, and there were a group of us, and I got talking to some girls, and I quite fancied them. And I think one of them liked me. You know, and now, again, we were going back. We were about 17, something like
Sneaking into Cat's bar.
I don't even remember where we were. The bar's probably changed its name a dozen times since. But anyway, they let me get them a drink, and we went back to our table. Whereupon Bolin and whichever laddie we were with talking to him, they were talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Because we were quite geeky kids. You know,
all the girls love it.
And at which point, Bolin very loudly declares that the number of hit points an ogre has is disproportionate in the rules of the game, and he doesn't think it's right, and he thinks that the rules need re-evaluating. At which point, these girls sort of stared at me and says, "Right, Tony, it's nice meeting you. We're off now." And I kind of sort of like blew it for me there.
Thanks,
so
Bolin.
I'm not sure I'll ever forgive him for that.
Yeah, so he definitely remains anonymous there.
Yeah, so Bolin Hand, if you're listening too. Yeah,
you shat on Tony.
I still hold a grudge about that, lad.
Rightly so. I read a little story out here from another friend of mine. Notice they're all friends and never me.
At least I'm honest.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
No, it's an American friend of mine. I said I'm looking for some funny stories, and he said he can let this one go without incrimination.
All right. Okay.
He's from Phoenix, he's my friend, but he went to Vegas with a friend of his 10 years ago. And these place names mean nothing to me, but they might to you. After ploughing through the champagne brunch at the now defunct Frontier, me and my friend Kevin, and that might be his real name, sorry Kevin.
Frontier, they've got a name in Batley.
Batley, yeah. He's lost, isn't he?
Yeah.
Find ourselves needing to blast off at the Venetian. Going to the bathroom. So blast off, he means...
that must be have a wee.
Take a shit, I think.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Okay, so blast off is taking
an Americanism. I don't think it's something that should be encouraged.
No, absolutely not. So we go into the bathroom and plop down in neighbouring stalls, and I go about my business in a slightly laboured, though otherwise uneventful manner. When I feel like things are starting to wind down, I hear a series of horrifying bowel explosions coming from Kevin's stall. And I start laughing, banging on the divider, and loudly cheering on Kevin's efforts, both as a sign of support and because I'm an immature ass. I finish up and head out into the hall to wait. And there I see Kevin waiting for me. Turns out I hadn't noticed that he took care of things rather quickly. And that I spent a good 2 to 3 minutes loudly and gleefully cheering on the explosive shit of a complete stranger. If you get a story from someone about a time that some asshole was hooting and hollering during his shit at the Venetian, please put me in touch so I can apologise.
Oh dear, shameful behaviour.
I think that's a little round of applause.
I think it is for being a dirty kinbasser.
Dirty kinbasser.
Yeah. Dogs decides to have a move. She just wants a cuddle.
That's a mistake. You gave it first cuddle ever, and then she never stopped.
To be fair, in this dog's defence, she's never flooded an expensive hotel room. So there is that. She can say, yeah. Doris is a Boston Terrier. I've got 2 of them, and they're an untrainable breed that basically just ignore everything I say.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I've got 2 daughters who also ignore everything I say.
Are they untrainable as well?
Yeah, they are. So, yeah. The little ones only just learnt to walk up around.
Well, I have 2 boys, and I keep telling them sit down to piss because they can't aim to save their life. I say, just sit down.
Can you, or do you only think you can?
There's nothing more decadent than a sit down piss.
You know, it's very interesting because it's like a treat is a sit down piss. Facebook. They're getting really keen on banning you from Facebook. You get like a 30-day ban.
They are getting more and more keen lately.
They're getting a bit... The censorship is getting to a stage where it actually starts to bother me a little bit. Because what they seem to have like algorithms that patrol it rather than people.
Definitely.
And of course, being American, they don't use the same expressions as us.
We don't
so
speak
for
the
example,
same language, do we?
You know, a fag butt.
Yeah.
In England is something very different than it is in America.
Yeah.
And you know, no one will get offended by a fag butt in England, but in America you'd have the Westboro Baptist Church after you, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I was talking about a very similar thing. We were talking about men not being able to aim when they go to the toilet because my friend had recently opened a micro pub. Nice. Little self-contained brewery. Yeah. Lovely bit of real ale, pleasant atmosphere, good home cooked food. You know, nice place.
Cosy.
I'll give him a little plug because he deserves one. Because I'll be honest, the pub trade's getting a bloody kick in at the moment. So it's called the Hare on the Hill, and it's at Littleborough in Lancashire. And it's a lovely little spot. And if you're out that way, do call in and have a pint. It's nice. Now, one of the things was that he noticed is that when he first opened it, because the place is a micro pub, there's not a lot of room for toilets and things like that. So what he had was 2 cubicles in the toilet which were mixed gender, which doesn't matter because they lock. So
one at a time.
Doesn't matter. And each one had a sink and was totally self-contained. So there's no mixing of the sexes or anything dodgy going on unless you want it to be. And he got some complaints within the first week of opening. You know, and this is we can't have going in the men's. We don't like it, and it was from women. Now, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. Now, the fact of the matter is, everything was nice and new at the time. And gleaming and sparkling and shiny. And to be honest, it's still all in very good condition, very well maintained and clean. But
women complaining drunken blokes are savages, I guess.
Well, this is it. And I basically just put on Facebook, well, to be honest, having spent the last 45 years going into the men's toilets in pubs, you know, as I go out for a pint and things like this, you know, I can kind of understand it. Some of the pubs I've been in, men are animals. You know, I've seen piss up the walls thing. But that comment, men are animals. Now, I am a man. At least I like to think I am.
Checked.
You know, it was deemed, what did they call it? Hate speech. And I wasn't allowed to go on Facebook and message my friends, reply to messages, or anything like that for 30 days. And I felt a little bit badly done to be honest, because the context of what I'd said, I wasn't hating anybody or being particularly mean or anything like that, you know.
It's a strong word, is it? Bandied about far too much.
I think it is, and I think what we need to do as a society is toughen the fuck up a little bit, really. You know, rather than worrying that we've offended each other all the time. And I think that these organisations that are trying to police it are ultimately, it's going to be a losing battle for them, isn't it? You know,
There's a belting comedy sketch by a comedian, I think he's called Steve Hughes, Australian guy.
Oh, I don't know him.
It's a belting comedy sketch, and basically he gets across the point, it's okay to be offended because nothing happens.
Yeah, very true.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, I was offended and I woke up with rabies the next... No, it doesn't happen. You're offended. Good. It means you have a frigging opinion on something.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever been offended as such. I've not been...
Give it a minute.
Well, there we go. I don't think I have. I don't think I've been offended. I've been angered. You know, people have made me cross. But I've never actually found something that offensive, because we're British, aren't we? We're quite thick-skinned. You know,
Stiff up on
there's a reason. There's a reason the rest of the world hates us. You know,
but they all speak English.
Nil point. Which is what our podcast is probably going to be getting, because we've been talking some right shit today, haven't we? Still, hopefully the edit can sort some of it out.
Are we good for another story?
Yeah, let's go for another story. We've got plenty of time, haven't we?
Right, I've got a little story here. A friend of mine's a childhood nightmare by the sound of it. Every year, 4 of them would do a charity swim for diabetes, which involved trudging from door to door around local streets and asking people to pledge 5 pence a lap or whatever they'd do. Bearing in mind they were going to do 200 laps. He was about 8-year-old at the time. So that's a lot of swimming for an 8-year-old, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Dead end of winter, he jumps in a freezing cold, shitty school pool to start his 200 laps. This must be a posh school. My school didn't have a pool.
No, only school around here had a pool. Rishworth, I think. You know, the public school.
Careful, you've been naming them. As I'm plodding along, I realise that something's not right. That something turned out to be a massive dump with the consistency of very watery oatmeal. I stop around lap 12 to gather myself, then think in my tiny child brain, yeah, I can probably make it another 178 laps before I gotta go. This was a mistake. I made it about 3 laps more before unleashing the entire contents of my bowels into my size 26 Speedos. I think the Speedos were so tight that most of it stayed in. So I remember the feeling of my entire Speedos being filled with shit. Literally all the way around. And I very carefully got out the pool and frantically waved down my older sister, who was about 13 at the time.
Oh, dear.
I told her what had happened. She calmly exited the pool and shuffled me into the stalls, wrapped me in a towel and walked me into the bathroom. I don't know how, but she managed to contain horror as she stripped off my Speedos, cleaned me off and put me in dry clothes.
Oh.
She never told me and I didn't notice, but I don't think anyone ever knew what happened. And there were probably 50 kids in the pool that day. Needless to say, we did not raise very much money for that charity. And also, I love my sister and she's a saint.
Lovely.
Oh, can you imagine?
To be honest,
8 years old, shit pants Speedos bubbling out.
it's funny because when we did our I were in the Scouts as a kid, as a lot of lads my age were.
I did Boys Brigade.
Yeah, it's like the Scouts, only gayer.
Different church.
Yeah, different church, different uniform. Still Hitler Youth, isn't it? You know. But yeah, I was in the Scouts and we did our swimming badge. I can't remember where we did. I think it was Sorby Bridge Baths.
The old one.
The old one, council owned, you know, council operated. And as we were swimming around, one of the young lads in the scout troop was swimming, and he saw something on the bottom of the pool. He wanted to know what it was, so he dived down, swum down, and came up with it in his hand, like it was the World Cup.
You come up like Neptune.
Yeah, coming out like this big splash. He's like comes up. It's a big turd.
Beautiful.
You know, so he immediately throws it away. He narrowly misses another lad, and we all get. He's desperately trying to wash it, swill his hand under the.
There's not enough chlorine in that pool, is there?
I'm glad they used to put a lot of bleach in those pools. I'm glad they did. But he then says, like the lifeguard, if that's what you could call the ridiculous. I mean, I'm not being funny. She's hardly athletic, this woman. And if one of us were in difficulty, we'd drown before she could get her ass out of that plastic chair. Pretty much sure. But her response was, "Well, dive down and get it for us then."
Not twice.
Anyway, I think eventually she came with some kind of like long ladle on the pole.
Oh, yes.
And sort of fannied around.
Shit scoop.
Yeah, but
nice.
we didn't want to stay in after that.
No.
You know, it was a bit of an unpleasant.
No, there's not enough chlorine involved, is there, to keep you back in that pool?
Episode. I did get was talking to some friends of mine about doing this podcast, and one of them said, "Oh well, it's not really much of a story, but I'll just clarify. She's a nurse."
I see nurses have some good tales to tell.
She does, and she was saying because I said, well, we kind of sort of explained the kind of level we were looking for, and she kind of says, "Oh well, there's been a couple of times, you know, when I've had sex with a patient." Never. Really, yeah. And I'll be honest, I can kind of see it because she didn't go into any details and things like that, but I'm sure that we might be able to elicit some risky story at some point in the future, because I know her quite well.
It's anonymous.
Yeah. And we don't have to name her mammal. But it put me in mind of actually when I went for my vasectomy operation. And before they did it, and it was an unpleasant and incompetently botched operation. I'll tell you this now. In fact, to be honest, if I were to give you a vasectomy by taping a scalpel to the back bumper of my car and reversing it in your general direction, I'd probably do a neater job of it, if I'm honest, than this git did with a bread knife. Anaesthetic didn't work. It was a nightmare. It's traumatising. It was horrible. And anyway, but before you go in for the procedure, they shave you. And I'm going to be honest, those hospital razors, the medical supply, are the worst razors. I mean, I'm
Not
somewhere between mountain gorilla and goat in a degree of how hairy I am. My hair is, I'm a ginger lad, and my hair is like electrical wire, copper wire. That's what it's like, and it has the same consistency. I'm like covered in bristly 16 amp cable. That's kind of what I'm. So these things were making neither, and it was taking quite a long time. And this nurse that was doing it was cute. She was, half my age and very pretty. And while she was shaving me with her, I'll say she was being professional, with her gloved hand, her little finger brushed against my phallus. Within a few more strokes of the razor, I would.
Hello, soldier.
And she looks at me with a bit of a smirk, but it's quite cheeky, and I'll be honest, I wasn't overly bothered, that's the thing. Anyway, then a pager went off, and she looked at it, and she said, "I've got to go. I'll be back very shortly, Mr." You just shook my name in myself here. You'll have to edit that out. And,
Mr. Bleep.
Mr. Bleep. And so I'm sat there on this hospital bed. I pulled the covers back, the sheet back over me, but I still had this stonking, magnificent erection. And she didn't come back. I sat there, and it didn't go away. I sat there. So, anyway, 10 minutes later, another nurse came back. "I've come to finish off your shave." Oh, she, obviously, I couldn't hide this, she pulled it. The problem with this one was, she was like Nanny from Duckula. I'm not, honestly, she had a backside like someone had parked a pair of Vauxhall Corsas next to each other, and anyway, let's just say my erection didn't last long. In fact, by the time she'd finished, it was more akin to a little walnut whip. Like it's retreated inside my body. But yeah, I'm sure at some point we'll be able to get some stories from my nurse friend.
Well, it's saying that you've reminded me of a story. I used to date a girl. She typed up medical records, and obviously sworn to secrecy. She never tell me anything when we got home, so we'll keep her anonymous. And she couldn't resist this one. Fella had come in, walking a bit funny, and you're going exactly the right way with your mind. He's got something stuck up his bum.
Oh no. At what point? No, I'm not for it.
Yeah, at what point do you give up trying to get it out?
I know that this is what I've always wondered, and I've never been in that situation myself. But I would go to some quite extreme lengths to get something out of my backside.
You'd have a good old push.
Well, I'd be honest with you, mate. I'd have a good old push. I'd probably get the toolbox out. I might even attempt surgery myself before I ring an ambulance. This is.
See if you can hook a ring spanner over it and pull it out. So yeah, it's
a crochet hook.
Story unfolds. He's got a whopping big dildo up his bum, and not only is it still buzzing,
but it's closed. It's got it.
It's pushed it beyond point of no return.
He must have it.
Yeah. So not only is it still buzzing, it's also still squirming.
What?
So. Yeah. Oh. So when she tells me this story, all I can think is picture in my mind is he's sat in waiting room on chair, sat there doing a little salsa wiggle. He can't help it.
Like one of those Hawaiian dancers, the solar powered Hawaiian hula girls.
That's it. Yeah. So They did get it out, record says, but in my mind, he'd got a little wiggle going on in waiting room there.
To be honest, for me, this just raises more questions.
Who put it there? Was it a DIY job?
How did he get it that far up?
Yeah.
Was he in agony?
I don't even want to go there.
I don't know. Well, I'll be honest. If that happened, I couldn't go to hospital. I just wouldn't have to. He'd just have to stay up there. You know?
Leave it there till it fused.
Stay up there with the others. Till batteries run out.
God. So if you have any grim nursing stories,
definitely.
Email them in.
We want grim nursing stories.
We like nurses.
We want stories about people getting unusual objects up their bottom. No judgment from us. You probably guess what kind of lads we are.
So email them in dirtykinbass@gmail.com. Let's
see what we can get in.
Let's have something grim. And, we've set a level. Let's keep it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's us calling it a day today, isn't it?
Thanks for listening.
If you were in fact listening.
If we may get a listener.
I don't know.
We're guaranteed one. I'm going to email you to check it over.
As I was telling you, Ben, podcast is a new thing to me.
Yes.
You know, I'm
late
to the party when it comes to a lot of technology. You know,
I have to confess, I didn't have a Spotify account till a month ago.
I mean, I like Spotify, but I listen to music that's not fashionable anymore. Basically, but yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's unusual because you're a bit of a technophile, aren't you?
I can cope.
And I'm a bit of a techno chimp. And it's strange, really, because Yorkshire is it's always been home of technology. It's where everything good were invented in Yorkshire, wasn't it? You know, fire, that was one of ours. The wheel, the rest of the world was still rolling around on logs until we invented wheel. And of course, you've got all those famous Yorkshiremen. You know, Elvis Presley. He were one of ours, wasn't he? You know. Used to work at Ripon District. Used to get bullied to fuck because of them ridiculous sideburns. Sequins on his overalls and shit like that, you know. And Gandhi, I think he used to run a shop up Great Orton Road, didn't he? He used to chase kids with his sticks when they nicked crunchy bars. So yeah, I think we've got a good county here, and I really ought to embrace technology a bit more. Sadly, I always seem to put it off for another day.
Well, there's no technology here. Let's face it. We've got a 5-year-old laptop, a 3-year-old phone, and as I said before, there's low rent podcasts, and this is no rent. Shoestring.
I still agree. I'd still stand by around my remarks, though. I don't think anybody wants to listen to us singing jingles.
No. So we'll insert a witty outro jingle here.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah.
See ya.
See you later.